So the lawyers took over.
The lawyers intervened, and then they purged documents. Every time there was reference to a word less hazardous or safer.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at lies, takebacks, and broken promises that changed the course of human history.
By 1974, the Nixon White House was a bunker, where the president and what was left of his loyal staff were holed up and holding out against wave after wave of bad news.
Number 10, WMD.
They simply got people to believe that there was a real threat out there when in fact there wasn't one.
You get told things every day that don't happen. It doesn't seem to bother people.
Post 9/11 America was primed for fear. The Bush administration poured gasoline on it. After invading Afghanistan, W set his sights on Iraq, implying that Saddam had ties to 9/11. Worse, the Iraqi dictator was supposedly sitting on a stockpile of weapons of mass destruction.
President Bush told cabinet members that if Saddam Hussein was to become a target, they needed to dig up evidence that he was cooperating with al-Qaeda.
Enter Colin Powell, the administration's most trusted face, sent to the UN to sell the war. He sat before the world, holding up a vial he said could contain anthrax. Powell echoed now discredited claims from U.S. intelligence about secret biolabs and mobile weapons programs. When U.S. troops stormed in, they found nothing but the wreckage of a cooked-up war. The lie killed hundreds of thousands, destroyed America's credibility for decades, and haunted Powell until his death.
He had walked into my office musing, and he said words to the effect of, I wonder how we'll all feel if we put 500,000 troops into Iraq and march from one corner of the country to the other and find nothing.
Number 9, Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme.
You feel that the legitimacy of the trading business offered protection to what your father was doing?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That he was using you and your brother?
Absolutely.
Charles Ponzi made headlines in 1920 by promising absurd profits on postage stamps. He told investors that they could rake in 50% returns in 45 days by flipping international postal coupons. It was a scam. He paid early investors with new money, not actual returns. It was a scheme that would define financial scams for the next century. If Ponzi was a financial demon, then Bernie Madoff was the devil. For decades, he posed as Wall Street's safest bet.
Days pass, weeks pass, months pass, and we never saw anything happen. Madoff just continued to report good numbers.
Celebrities, charities, and retirees lined up to hand him their savings. Behind the curtain, it was an empty house of cards. There were no trades, no profits, just a $64 billion illusion. When the 2008 crash hit, it all came crashing down.
It's gross negligence. It's incompetence.
But at the heart of his story is a criminal mastermind who kept spinning to the end.
Number 8, LBJ and Vietnam.
We're here to emphasize that the United States will maintain its interest and its presence in your country. There is no question whatsoever of our abandoning that interest.
In 1964, Lyndon B. Johnson made a grave promise. We are not about to send American boys 9,000 or 10,000 miles away from home. Less than a year later, he did exactly that. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, an alleged unprovoked attack by North Vietnam, was used to justify escalation. But one of the 2 reported attacks never happened. They lied about going, about why they went, and as the world would come to learn, their chances once they got there.
Now Johnson knew the stakes. To keep South Vietnam from falling, he might have to commit hundreds of thousands of American boys to a full-scale land war in Asia. He was face to face with a decision he had been dreading.
The Pentagon Papers, leaked years later, confirmed it. Escalation was planned well in advance of Tonkin. Worse, Johnson and others knew the war was unwinnable. Over 58,000 Americans died, millions of Vietnamese lives were lost, and America's trust was forever shattered.
What makes you think if we put in the numbers you're suggesting, that Ho Chi Minh won't match us man for man?
This means greater bodies of men, Mr. President, which will allow us to cream them.
Number 7, Stalin. There is no famine.
Stalin condemns the Ukrainian party's urgent appeals to reduce quotas and send aid. He accuses them of placing local interests above the success of the 5-year plan. The war for bread is the war for socialism, he says.
Left-wing or right-wing, there is one consistent truth about autocrats: lies are their greatest weapon. In the early 1930s, Joseph Stalin engineered a famine across Ukraine. He seized grain and sealed borders as millions starved. When foreign journalists started asking questions, the Soviet line was simple: there is no famine.
Their suffering meant nothing to Stalin. He looked for scapegoats.
Anyone who said otherwise was silenced or expelled. Just a few years later came the Great Purge. Stalin blamed every failure and civil unrest on enemies of the people. That lie justified show trials, mass executions, and gulags filled with innocents. Millions died, slain by hunger and bullets alike. All of it was cloaked in official denials and false narratives. To this day, Kremlin-aligned voices still push a lot of more denial online.
Tell Comrade Stalin what is happening. Tell him they have taken away our land, our wood, our lives.
Number 6, the tobacco industry on cigarettes.
The issue here isn't why should people smoke, it's why should people smoke Lucky Strike.
Imagine if Don Draper ran an ad campaign for the devil, and you'll come close to big tobacco. They sold glamour, freedom, and rugged masculinity while knowing full well their product caused cancer. Even after the 1964 Surgeon General's report linked smoking to disease, tobacco executives doubled down. For decades, they swore nicotine wasn't addictive. They called filters safer. They buried internal research, bought off scientists, and ran ads with doctors holding Lucky Strikes.
There's no better way to launch a product than to be able to go on the airwaves.
Nothing tastes as mild and rich as a Camel except another Camel.
Better taste.
Lucky's taste bad.
Say, this is a good cigarette.
It wasn't until 1998, with the Master Settlement Agreement, that the truth fully came out. Decades of calculated deception were exposed in damning internal memos. Smoking killed millions. This was evident since the 1950s. The industry's real product wasn't cigarettes, it was the lies they peddled to keep the world smoking.
We don't sell Tic Tacs, for Christ's sake. We sell cigarettes. And they're cool and available and addictive. The job is almost done for us.
Number 5, Watergate.
They planted spies, stole documents, and on and on. Now, don't tell me you think this is all the work of little Don Segretti.
The break-in was sloppy, but the cover-up was worse. In June 1972, 5 men were caught bugging the Democratic National Committee's office at the Watergate complex. As it turned out, the burglars were directly tied to President Nixon's re-election campaign. The White House denied everything in public. Behind the scenes, Nixon and his inner circle were busy on a crime spree.
The president had no choice, and one tape clearly showed that Richard Nixon ordered a cover-up of the Watergate investigation.
They paid hush money, obstructed justice, and weaponized federal agencies against their enemies. It worked for a while until the revelation of tapes. Subpoenaed recordings revealed Nixon knew about the cover-up from the start. The truth unraveled his presidency. Faced with certain impeachment, Nixon resigned in disgrace. Trust in government never fully recovered.
It's clear in the conversation this is being done for political purposes, basically to save the skin of the White House, and the president says he approves it.
Number 4, the donation of Constantine. Did you know that the biggest power move in Catholic history was backdated? During the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church claimed Emperor Constantine had granted it control over Rome and the Western Roman Empire. The proof was a 4th century document called the Donation of Constantine. It gave the Pope supreme political and spiritual authority. There was just one problem: it was fake. Created in the 8th century, the document was used for centuries to justify papal supremacy. Rome's influence over kings and emperors rested on a forgery. It wasn't until the 15th century that Renaissance scholar Lorenzo Valla exposed the fraud. But by then, the damage was done. Wars were fought, crowns were bestowed, and power was centralized, all thanks to a fake scroll. Number 3, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It surfaced in 1903 in Tsarist Russia, a pamphlet proving that a secret Jewish cabal was bent on global domination. Equal parts plagiarism and pure fiction, its lurid conspiracies spread like wildfire across Europe and America. When the Nazis needed a scapegoat, they turned to the Protocols. They reprinted it by the millions, ran it in newsreels, and taught it in classrooms. Goebbels called it essential reading, and Hitler echoed its themes in Mein Kampf. It was a lie that helped grease the machinery of the Holocaust. A century later, the protocols still circulate online. They're pushed in fringe forums, rebranded as memes, and amplified by state-sponsored troll farms. Today, it muddies the waters of anti-Israel sentiment with anti-Semitism to divide loyalties and complicate geopolitics.
Do you have that book, The Protocols of the Elders of Zion? Sold out? He sold out the protocols. Yeah. It's a hot seller.
Number 2. The Commentari de Bello Gallico.
Don't they know that my ambition is their ambition, the ambition of Rome? I will go to Britain, and Caesar shall have his legions all the same.
Julius Caesar didn't just conquer Gaul, he used the war to ghostwrite his own legend. In Commentari de Bello Gallico, his official war memoirs, Caesar painted himself as a heroic general defending Rome from barbaric hordes. He claims to have killed over 1 million Gauls and taken another 1 million as slaves. In truth, these claims were wild exaggerations. Modern historians estimate those numbers were inflated several times over. Roman losses, too, were far greater than Caesar let on. The barbarians he crushed included thousands of women and children. But his propaganda worked. The memoir made Caesar a superstar back home. It paved his path to dictatorship, giving history its earliest and most successful example of a wartime spin. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. The Munich Agreement.
There was little to be decided. As Chamberlain had said, and as this agreement said, it had already been decided in principle to give the Sudetenland to Germany.
Sometimes those who believe blatant lies deserve some of the blame. In 1938, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain returned from Germany victorious. He gleefully waved a piece of paper before the British public, promising peace for our time. It was the Munich Agreement, a deal with Adolf Hitler allowing Nazi Germany to annex the Sudetenland. Chamberlain believed it would satisfy Hitler's ambitions. He was wrong.
I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine.
Within 6 months, Hitler broke the agreement, seizing the rest of Czechoslovakia. Within a year, he invaded Poland, igniting World War II. The Munich Agreement was just appeasement dressed up as diplomacy. Chamberlain wasn't completely naive. He gambled that Hitler could be managed. Instead, the lie that peace had been secured gave a genocidal regime time to grow stronger.
There were worldwide protests, the bitterest coming from veteran Czech soldiers in America who had been decorated by the victor powers of 1918. They gave back the medals tarnished by Munich.
Did we lie to you about history's worst falsehoods? Let us know in the comments below.
After all, there are 2 terrible dilemmas in Europe: economic chaos and war. And anything that can keep us out of either of those should be tried.